This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by esteemed trainer Virgil Hunter in Portsmouth, of all places. Virgil, the first time I've ever spoken to you and met you, I feel quite privileged to be in your company. And here we are in Portsmouth. How are you finding this south town?
Well, it's typical UK. The weather's iffy and offy, but I'm adjusting to it. I've been over here several times now, so I know what to expect. So everything is going okay.
Obviously, the decision for Joshua Buatsi to come over here to train in Portsmouth, was it one which you was initially on board with? Do you understand maybe why Josh wanted to, or would you have rather have been back over in the States?
Well, actually, this turned out to be a better decision because the sparring that we needed was near here, so it wasn't a travel issue where you have to worry about visas and things. And then, of course, he was able to save money in camp by not having to put sparring partners up and things like that. So he was already here. He had to renew his visa. So his visa didn't come back in time for him to come back over to the States. He wouldn't have been able to come and do a full camp. So that was the issue right there. But always I prefer to do it at home. My resources are at home and everything that I need is at home. So, but we managed here. We're doing well.
Has it been more difficult for you to spend this period away from your home comforts?
Well, of course. I mean, home is where, your comfort is. So, but I understand the demands that need to be made, and I'm ready to make those sacrifices on the benefit of any fighter that I have that's willing to work hard, that is determined, and also has the ability to do things. So I don't mind making the sacrifice at all.
I'm waiting to ask Josh this, but I'll get your thoughts on it as well, as somebody who's worked in boxing for so many years. I remember interviewing Josh just probably 3 or 4 fights into his professional career, and I asked him about how he feels in terms of the sacrifices he's made as an amateur, always on the road, always away from home, missing family events, missing his friends, and he just said it's kind of part and parcel with the sport. It's something you get used to, and he's willing to make those sacrifices to achieve his goals. As Josh has gotten on with his career and as you've continued to progress with your career, how much more difficult does it become to continue to make those sacrifices?
Well, if you love the sport, it's not really a sacrifice at all. You can call it the minimum minor inconvenience, and that means that you're just missing the comforts of home. But you should be able to adjust, which I have. I've made this home. It's like the UK is my second home. It's like I'm over here 2 to 3 times a year, so I'm accustomed to it. It's not a problem at all.
Joshua Buatsi is getting ready for Dan Azeez next weekend. It's been well spoken about that they have a relationship outside of the ring. They've known each other for many years. Have you seen any difference with regards to Josh's training in terms of preparing to face somebody he's known for so many years? He knows him inside and out.
No, not at all. There's not a difference in his training. He understands what he's up against. He understands that Azeez has the same motivation and the same goals that he has. Each fighter has a goal and ambition to get to the top, and they're standing in each other's way. I don't think they've really sparred or interacted for several years outside of acknowledging each other on a friendship level. So I don't think he'll take that emotion into the fight with him. I think he has the ability to make it personal, just like I'm sure Azeez has the ability to make it personal. So I look forward to a great and competitive fight.
That's something I wanted to ask on the sparring. Spoke to Josh, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, and he said that he recalls sparring with him back in around March, February time. From what you're saying, I imagine you wasn't around for any of that sparring, or?
No, he was in the States at that time. So right then, he made the commitment to come back 2 weeks after his last fight with Stepien, which I told him in order to progress as a fighter, you have to stay in the gym and work on your weaknesses and work on your strengths as well. So he made that commitment. He committed to me that this is what he'll always do. So we just took advantage of the time and worked different things that we felt that he needed to work on. He had some sparring sessions, but he didn't really pick it up until he came back over to the UK.
What challenges does Dan Azeez possess and will give to Joshua Buatsi that maybe you guys haven't come across together since you began your working relationship?
Well, he's on a roll, and when a fighter is on a roll, it's not easy to stop that roll. He's motivated. He likes to stress that he came up the hard way, but I would say that anybody that's an Olympian didn't have it easy. And that's a misconception that fighters who had to come through the hard way maybe not have the initial recognition or the initial admiration or the promoter deal, things like that. Don't underestimate going through the Olympics and fighting international competition. You're fighting grown men, you're fighting pros and things like that. It's nothing easy about being an Olympian. Matter of fact, it's harder than coming up, starting out with journeymen and things like that. So I think keeping that into account, I look for a very competitive fight. I'm sure they'll fall back on some of their past sparring sessions and things like that, but the friendship will go out the door once that bell rings.
Is it a surprise to you, Virgil, that this has been billed somewhat as a 50-50? Josh is the favourite with the bookmakers, but is it a surprise to you that some people look at this as a 50-50 fight?
Well, no, it doesn't surprise me because, again, Azeez has been on a roll, and he's got a couple of titles, European title, I believe, and the British title. Not to say that Josh couldn't have won either one of them himself if we'd have took that path. So he's on a roll and things like that, and I think when you really stop and think about it, it makes sense to make it a 50-50 fight. That draws the fans in, that draws the media in, and they expect to see a good fight regardless of what I feel like the odds should be or what the odds, or Azeez should feel like the odds should be. So it makes sense to say it's a 50-50 fight. They gave Charlo a chance to beat Canelo, so that's always part of boxing. I understand that. And, I can ride with it, I can settle with it, but it doesn't matter what I think. Josh still has to do the job on that night on October 22nd or 21st.
I know you won't want to give too much away, but when he's in the ring and they are stood across each other just before that bell rings for the first time, how do you envisage October 21st playing out for Joshua Buatsi?
Well, I usually take it round by round. I can't go over the whole complete session that's happening. It's a round by round thing with me. I'm sure he'll be focused and locked in. He has to be if he wants to accomplish his goals. So I'm not worried about that. That's what the training sessions are for. That's what the motivational sessions are for, to get him in the right frame of mind that I will not accept anything less than victory. And as long as he has that, we can work with each other round after round.
There's been a lot of talk in the past, Virgil, about kind of Josh's progression towards world honours. I remember after the Craig Richards fight, people asked you in the post-fight press conference if the Bivol fight was offered, would you be ready or would you be happy to take it, or if Beterbiev was offered, and at the time you said maybe one or two more fights you'd like to see Josh have. He comes through Dan Azeez unscathed. Is he then ready for a world title tilt?
Well, I think at this stage in his career, if he comes through, he has to be granted a world title shot. He earned it. He'll be the #1 contender. And this is as good time as any. When I said it back at the Richardson fight, I'm a believer that it's easy to get a belt, but it's harder to keep it. So keeping that in mind and knowing where his progress was and everything. Look, Joshua has a chance to get anybody because of his punching power and his aggression. But you want him to be more complete, or more cerebral, or more thoughtful, a more wise IQ'd fighter. So some of those things were missing at the time, and that's what we've been trying to impart in him coming over to the States in between fights.
People look at Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, and somewhat they seem to think there's a gap between them and the rest of the division. In your mind, again, provided the 21st goes to plan, would you put Josh in that bracket then? Would you say he's just beneath but maybe ready to challenge, and it's just a matter of if he can step up to the plate and come away with a result against one of those world title holders?
I think after this fight, it'll tell a lot. I'll make a determination after that. Of course, you can't hold him back if the opportunity is there. I think he stands a good chance against Bivol and Beterbiev. Bivol a little bit more difficult because of his feet, but, I have some questions about his footwork and this Russian style. I've gone up against the Soviet style, so I know pretty much what they like and what they don't like. So it's to impart on him what he doesn't like. And that would give Josh a chance because that would be appealing to his natural temperament. So Beterbiev is a different cookie. You got to stay alert. You got to hurt him, and you got to let him know that you're there to make him respect you. But both of them are very tough fights, but a fight that I think Josh would hold his own against.
Just with Artur Beterbiev, he's facing Callum Smith early in the new year. How do you see that fight playing out? A lot of people always talk with Artur Beterbiev. Is time kind of catching up with him? Is the timing right if you're Callum Smith?
I think it's right for Callum Smith at any other time in his career. Of course, he cannot. The one thing that worries me about Callum is how he succumbed to Canelo, how he covered up and just didn't do anything against Canelo. Beterbiev hits way harder than Canelo. So, but he's at a different weight. He didn't take the fight on short notice. He has the tools to pull it out if he can hurt Beterbiev, but if he can't hurt Beterbiev, it's going to be a tough fight. Beterbiev is a very clever fighter. He knows how to maneuver you in the ring where he wants to maneuver you, and he throws his hands and wrists and forearms are so strong that he don't have to load up on the punch to knock you senseless. So it's a situation where you got to be careful, you got to be calculated in winning the fight, and you got to be able not to take that big shot.
One other fight which I want to bring into the equation for Joshua Buatsi is the Anthony Yarde fight. Obviously, Anthony's called for that fight recently. He went on to Sky Sports, said he wants to face the winner of next Saturday. What are your thoughts on that fight as well, and kind of the progression of Anthony's own career? He's fought twice for world honours against Sergey Kovalev, and most recently Beterbiev fell short on both occasions, but he has been up there and given two good accounts of himself.
Well, you know, one thing in boxing, and I'll just say this, the promoters try to get big fights early. If Tyson Fury hadn't done what he did with Usyk, he wouldn't be getting $100 million. If Spence would have done what they wanted him to do with Crawford, he wouldn't have made $35, $40 million, and Crawford about the same. You have to take the fights when they're ready. Now, with all respect to Tunde, with all respect to Yarde, he's had two opportunities, and he came up short. So if we're the #1 contender, then does it make sense to give him opportunity and get in our way? No, it doesn't at all. It's a business, and it should be treated like a business. And it's just like Warrington and this past fight Wood. They made the most money in their career in that fight. Even though Warrington took 3 losses, the fight was in demand years before it actually happened. So you have to do it at the right time. But it's one thing what the promoters want, so they have to pay less money. The public has to understand that fights have to build up. Neither one of them have a big name, so you're going to get them for little or nothing. Instead of letting one get a big name, one step up, and the other keep stepping up, and now you have to pay for the fight. So, personally, I'm not for it. With all due respect to Tunde and all due respect to Yarde, why should he be rewarded with a #1 contender fight when he had 2 opportunities, came up short in both opportunities, and just finished fighting a 40-year-old man? So what did he do to earn the next fight? And that's not being disrespectful. I love Yarde, I love Tunde, but I'm speaking strictly from a business point, not a personal point. I have much love for him, but it's business, and I'm sure if they were in the same situation, they would consider the same.
We mentioned in Warrington Wood earlier on as well there, Virgil. I take it you've been keeping your eye on the British shows whilst you've been over here?
I watch the British shows all the time. The British fans are very passionate. They support their own. And we want to have Joshua and Yarde having the same ability to sell out arenas and things like that. If you can't sell out an arena, then you're not in a good position to bargain for what you're worth. So give them a chance to build up. The promoter's job is to build the fighter up, not to tear the fighter down, not to move him in a situation where you're just going to get him cheap, little for nothing. Let him have an opportunity to build himself up. After all, he's going in there giving his blood, sweat, and tears. He's representing you, so you need to represent him also. So in that situation, give Joshua Buatsi an opportunity, just like Yarde had an opportunity. Two opportunities. Give him the same opportunity. And Lee Wood got knocked out in a fight. Warrington has been knocked out in the fight, and they still made the most money that they ever made in their careers for this fight. So it was done at the right time. The losses don't mean nothing if it's done at the right time. Because if you lose a fight giving your all, and the fans are passionate about your fighting spirit and fighting ability, they could accept a loss because you're exciting to them. They're going to come see you fight regardless because they know they're going to see a fight. So give Yarde and Buatsi the same chance to make the most money, not give them 6 figures or low 7 figures, but give them up there where they can cash out and have some life-changing money. That's how I see it.
One thing I'm interested to get your thoughts on, Virgil, is this sudden kind of influx of British fighters travelling overseas to America to pick up a new American trainer. Obviously, you're working with JB, Buddy McGirt's working with Dan Azeez, with Callum Smith, Anthony Joshua, Robert Garcia previously before Derek James. You obviously work with Amir Khan as well. Why do you feel like there's been this kind of a progression almost of British fighters searching abroad for an American trainer?
Well, I think it's well in their right to do that, to search. Tyson Fury has, yes, he has him, and it's something that fighters want to do to get re-stimulated. The UK is a great place and things like that, but if you look at the UK racially, demographically, you're seeing the same styles pretty much. So in America, you're going to see a lot of different styles, a lot of variations in styles. It's no secret that a lot of UK fighters have problems with the Mexican style. And over in the States, you're going to be able to see that style in sparring and things like that and get used to it and understand how they fight, understand how some of the African Americans fight with the speed and the quickness and the different styles and things like that. So I don't see anything wrong with them coming to America, and I don't see anything wrong with Americans coming to the UK. They're excellent trainers over here, proven trainers, great trainers that have accomplished a lot, and they need to be mentioned up there at the top with the other trainers that are esteemed.
One thing I also wanted to kind of get known, and we mentioned Anthony Joshua there as well. I know when he was looking for a new trainer, he came and spoke with yourself. A lot of people look at him and question if maybe he's lost that kind of the aggressive style that we got used to seeing, and if maybe he's a bit more gun shy. When he spoke to you, was that ever something which came up? And do you see more of kind of a gun shy Anthony Joshua, if you will?
Well, I'm not going to say he's gun shy. I'm going to say he's more calculated. People don't understand when you get knocked out, your mindset changes, especially when you realize how you got knocked out. I got knocked out being careless, leaving myself wide open. So I have to understand I got power, so I don't have to go display it right away. I don't have to just go in there and just try to march through you because you say I can do that. Of course, I mean, there's some spots where he could have showed a little bit more aggression, but he's reprogramming himself. If you think back with Bernard Hopkins, when he first started out, he was named the executioner. He just rush out the corner and just bum rush you and knock you out. After that, he became X. When he beat Trinidad, he was X. He was more calculated. He used his feet. He used his angles. He was a completely different boxer. When he beat Kelly Pavlik, he was a completely different boxer. He wasn't X. So boxers transform through their career. They go through phases. And all you got to do is when you get knocked out, you're going to have a different mindset. You're not going to forget that. It's like an old trainer say, when you see the sawdust, the meal is not far away. So it doesn't take but one punch. Just the Joe Joyce fight, for instance. I predicted as soon as he get hit with a good punch, his mind is going to go right back to that first fight. It's impossible not to. It's going to go right back to that first fight. So you saw what happened. He got careless. He stayed careless because he thought I had to be bigger to take the punch. But you never thought about not taking the punch. You said, I got to be bigger so my resistance is better. But it don't matter. Once you see the sawdust, the meal is not far away. The brain remembers, just like in a person with an addictive personality. They can go to rehab, get cleaned up off of Oxycontin pills or fentanyl pills, and after a year they say, well, I'll just take one. And the brain remembers. And pretty soon, well, I can take another one the next day, and then I'm going to stop. Then the next thing you know, you're right back in that vicious cycle. So it's the same thing with getting knocked out with a fighter. When you see the sawdust, the meal is not far away. So I don't knock Anthony Joshua. He's finding his way. Fundamentals are everything in boxing. You have to have a career after boxing. You can't get careless and things like that. You can't get careless. So I commend him for finding a different style. He has the athletic ability to box under a different style. But of course the fans, they're not in there. They want to see blood and guts. But after that blood and gut career is over, it's just like with Lisa McKellar's foundation. Nobody's supporting these fighters. Nobody's coming to contribute to their well-being. Nobody's there to make sure that they're all right. They're alone. They're alone and they're mixed up and confused thoughts. They don't know whether they're coming or going, all for the entertainment of fans. And what happens? They come and take a bow, get some claps or something at a fight, and that's it. Or they show up at a card show or something like that. But nobody remembers them. So I commend him for looking out for his career. What does he have to prove? He's been a two-time heavyweight champion. He's made all the money he can make for a lifetime. So what does he have to prove to the fans? Be calculating, be smart, be intelligent, have that IQ, know when and when not to.
Just a few thoughts on the horizon. I'll quickly get your thoughts on Virgil. Just sticking with AJ, a lot of talk about a potential Deontay Wilder fight. At the minute, that seems to have fallen by the wayside. But if we did ever see them two square up in the ring, how would you envisage it going?
It's a very interesting fight. I think it boils down to AJ not getting hit with Deontay's right hand. Although Malik is doing a good job with Deontay, I see in the drills, and he appears to be getting more and more sharp with the drills. Deontay's got a quick reflex on his right hand. He don't even think about it. It just goes, and it goes normally at the right time. Of course, he's an undersized heavyweight. If AJ could keep his guards up and close the distance and shorten the distance, I think he has a great chance. But I would say at this point it's a 50-50 fight, whoever gets caught first.
Fury-Ngannou in a couple of weeks' time, do you have any interest in that fight, Virgil?
I'm not going to buy it. My interest is if Ngannou can land a punch or, however it goes, because that's all he has is a puncher's chance. I don't think Fury is taking him lightly, not with this Usyk fight on the horizon. I don't think he's going to take it lightly. I think he'll keep him at the end of the jab, keep him confused with his footwork and movement. Ngannou's kind of stuck in cement with his foot movement. So other than him landing a bomb that just completely lays Fury out, I don't see him winning the fight.
Fury-Usyk is the next fight I was going to bring up there. It's the undisputed heavyweight crown. Obviously, has been well documented. That contracts have apparently been signed. If we do see that, your take again, please, Virgil.
I'd have to go with Tyson Fury because he's not a flat-footed fighter. I think he understands the type of style that he'd have to fight. Usyk probably can't hurt him, which is a big plus for Fury because he can crowd him, he can mug him, he can things like that. Usyk is going to have to be able to fight effectively on the back foot and stay on the back foot the whole time. He might touch Tyson a few times, but his size and his reach, along with the boxing ability he has, he's going to prevail, I believe.
Benavidez Andrade was announced the other day. It's a terrific fight at 168. David obviously going in as a favourite, but how do you rate Demetrius's chances?
Demetrius is what you would call a chameleon. He has the ability to do a lot of things. It depends on how he prepares for the fight. He definitely has to have legs for the fight. He definitely has to have in and out music. Benavidez is a second half fighter. He's very dedicated, very rough to deal with. You got to be alert at all times. Right now, I don't have a pick this early in the fight. I am aware of what's going on in Demetrius' training camp, not Benavidez. So Demetrius has to commit to making sure he gets the top flight sparring and that he's in the best shape that he could be in. He definitely has a style that can pose problems for Benavidez. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled it out.
Benavidez is seen as somebody who has the style to cause Canelo problems. Do you think that David Benavidez could be maybe the only man at 168 to defeat Saul Canelo Alvarez?
I see that fight as whoever has the ability to keep the other on the back foot. Canelo doesn't do well on the back foot, and David doesn't do well on the back foot. But I can't say that because I haven't seen David on the back foot. But I saw Bivol put Canelo on the back foot, and he doesn't do well on the back foot. So whoever can dictate the turf in that fight, I think, has the best opportunity to win. If I had to bet, I would bet with Beterbiev jab and the way he uses it and things like that, that he has a great chance of winning that fight.
Haney-Prograis, December 9th, Virgil. Again, just your breakdown, please. How do you envisage that 140-pound fight going?
Well, actually, I don't even have no comment on that fight because it's Devin's first 140 fight. He definitely has the boxing ability to win. I think he has to be able to stay out of danger. Prograis is a dangerous fighter, and if I was Devin, I wouldn't be looking toward Prograis' last fight. His styles make fights, and I wouldn't be looking towards that fight. Sometimes a fighter can really get up for a big fight. So I know Devin personally. He's come to my gym quite a bit. I know his dad personally. So I think if Devin exhibits his skills and stay out of danger, he should be able to pull it out. But at the same time, it depends on Prograis' fight plan. If he could put pressure on him and disrupt the boxing, I think he has a chance to pull it out.
Virgil, just a final thing from me. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about that potential Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. rematch. We saw such a dominant display from Terence Crawford in their first fight. Whether it was to happen and at 147 or 154, does it hold an interest to you?
The rematch? If Errol wants it, it definitely would hold interest for me, because I'm sure that whatever issues they have, they'll be very diligent about going back over and troubleshoot the issues that caused him to lose that fight. And I believe regardless of the outcome, it'll be a competitive fight. If I had to bet, I wouldn't bet on either one, because you just never know. I see he's giving himself time to recuperate, which is more important. So, but I don't blame Terence to say the contract was at 147. So if you want to fight, it's at 147. Crawford is at a stage in his career where one Canelo fight and he's out. So he doesn't have to succumb to the demands. He doesn't have that kind of pressure on him because he's in a good position. But if Errol wants to fight again, he has my support for the fight. And hopefully they'll work out some of the things that went wrong the first time and make it a more competitive fight.
All right, Virgil, it's a pleasure to speak to you for the first time. I'm sure I've taken more of your time rather than what you anticipated, so I appreciate you sticking around for this. I'll keep in touch, obviously, and I'll speak to you again soon. Good luck next Saturday night. Thank you.
Will do. Take care.